Firefox. Tab panel. Frame. Document. Content. Edit. Type and text.
Okay,
Screen reader
so
support enabled.
here we
Screen
are.
reader support enabled. Slide 1 of 31.
And you can hear screen enable and all of that. So we know all the how to make PowerPoints accessible and all of that. And Jordan's got this down clearly also. So let me show you the issue though with the actual slide. So
tab selected. Blank. Center title statement of financial position selected.
All great. And that's text. And I do want you to watch the other video first so you can actually see the issues, because PowerPoint in Office clearly shows the major issues. So actually when you get here, you can take the most accessible product like Google and you can make it inaccessible by continuously drawing extra boxes in it and making layers, which are called nesting boxes. So that read great. Yep, because these are words.
Tab. Subtitle advanced level selected.
So they actually utilize the text boxes that were in the slide. That's perfect. That's what you want to do. So we escape and we
subtitle
down arrow.
Slide 2 : Who is wealthier?
Okay, who's wealthier? Yeah, and as you saw in the other video, that's what it read, who is wealthier, because that's the actual text box they utilized. Now, if you recall from the video, you have an original box which they took, and you can kind of see the outline, and then they drew this, the gray in there, and then the Ian and Mitchell, and then the light gray, and then they did this text box, this text box, this text box, and this text box. You'll notice how they're not layered correctly, so no blind child would actually understand this. So let's tab.
Tab selected. Blank. Title: Who is wealthier selected.
Great.
Tab. Body selected.
Body selected. Nothing, because they drew a box within boxes, and then of course you have several more boxes within that. So let's continue. This is what, close your eyes, be a blind person, see what she's going to actually hear here.
Tab. Text box background color : light 1 white line color : number D1282E close to light red berry 1. Let's learn more to answer this question selected.
Okay, so you have who is wealthier, and then a huge blank, and then let's learn more to answer this question. So if you're a blind person, you're expecting the content to come next after this. So let's see what happens.
Tab. Text box income $30,000 selected.
A text box, because someone in their wisdom took the original text box, which was accessible, and then they drew this gray box in, which is not accessible, and then they drew another text box over top of that and put income 30,000. Okay, if you're blind, do you have any idea what that's relating to? No. Let's continue.
Tab. Text box net worth $50,000 selected.
Okay, let's keep going.
Tab. Text box income $85,000 selected.
Okay, still, we have no Ian, no Mitchell, because those are images of text.
Tab. Text box net worth $35,000 selected.
Okay, and continue to tab.
Tab. Image selected.
Image. Great.
Tab. Title: Who is wealthier selected.
So back to the title.
Escape. Title: Who is wealthier unselected. Slide 3 :
and we're going to continue with the issues.
Tab selected. Blank. Table 2 rows 2 columns row 1 column 1 net worth column 2 wealth row 2 column 2 selected.
So in their wisdom, you have an original box, and then they texted this box. So this is a layer, and you actually have a table which you can use if you use tables correctly. And what they should have done in this whole thing is actually created correct tables within it. But what they should have done is net worth equals wealth, their title of the slide, and then they should have drawn a text box with net worth, and it should have said column 1, row 1, and then they down arrow, they would hear net worth, and then they would hear the measure of financial wealth, and then of course they would go to the second side, which would read column 2, and then they would hear wealth, and they would down arrow into the second row, and then it would say indicates the monetary value of possessions, but that's not what it does. So let's keep going.
Tab. Group of 2 objects, image, text box, and group selected.
Yeah, don't you love that? Group. You're blind. Do you have any idea what that is?
Tab. Image added to selection.
Image, so they did a layer over top of a layer, they drew it, and then they inputted
Tab.
it.
Text box added to selection, image unselected.
And then another text box. You see that? We've got 3 already.
Tab. Text box, the measure of financial wealth selected.
Okay, do you have any idea where that goes to? The measure of financial wealth. And you can see a text box was drawn, and then you still have the layer of text in there.
Tab. Text box indicates the monetary value of all possessions that a person or household owns, minus the total amount owed to other.
Just hush them up. So once again, they did a box, then they drew this box, and then they drew this, and then they drew this, and then they typed in text within a text box. Inappropriate.
Escape. Text box indicates the slide 4 : net worth vs.
Okay, I'm going to just jump you down. You're getting the idea. This is the same issue as the second slide, so I want to show you another huge issue.
Slide 5 : how do you determine
this one? Okay, how do you determine what your net worth? And we already know that reads because they did all the title slides correctly. So the blind student knows that. But let's keep going.
Tab selected. Blank. Title. How do you determine
Okay,
what
we
your
know
net worth?
that.
Tab. Body selected.
Body selected. Don't you love that information? Yeah.
Tab. Image selected.
Image. Okay.
Tab. Image selected.
Image selected. Nothing. And so none of those speak. You're clueless right now. So let's keep going.
Tab. Text box statement of financial position dash A financial.
So they read. It's a text box within text box. So these are nested. So they're not even in order. It does it. There's all those arrows because of course all those arrows. That's a whole drawn image. It's a drawn image, and then they drew a text box, and then they typed the text. The typing of the text is the absolutely last thing that was done on these, and that's the reason why they don't make sense.
Tab. Text box shows a person's net worth. Tab. Text box similar to a net worth statement.
And it should have had leads to, actually indicating what these arrows are, the images in it. So these are like images in images. So these just plague every single PowerPoint. The issues that I have just recorded on both of these videos plague this whole process. So the University of Arizona really needs to change all of this. These are completely inaccessible. There's like you know now how long this is taking me. All this has to be typed out. OCR will only do so much, and that's optical character recognition, because it can't do all this. There's so many issues with this. You can't even put these through programs. I have to use 2 different programs, and still I end up typing so much out because these are just image based. Anyway, there's issues, lots and lots of issues.